In this presentation, we will study the relation between the pH values and the concentration of H+ ions. So we have mentioned in previous sections that the value of the pH depends on the concentration of H+ ions in the solution. If we take a solution of dilute hydrochloric acid, whose concentration is 0.1 mole per cubic decimeter, we will find that its pH is equal to 1.0. Remember that HCl is a strong acid, which means that it ionizes completely in water to produce H+ ions and Cl- ions. In other words, the concentration of H+ ions is equal to the concentration of HCl, which is equal to 0.1 mole per cubic decimeter. So the pH of this solution is equal to 1.0. Let's dilute this solution 10 times by adding water. When this solution is diluted 10 times, so by a factor of 10, the concentration will be 0.010 mole per cubic decimeter. Let's now measure its pH. We will find that the pH value of this solution is equal to 2.0. So now the concentration of H+ ions is equal to 0.010 mole per cubic decimeter, and thus the pH value is equal to 2. This table shows different concentrations of H+ ions in a solution and the corresponding pH values. So when the concentration of H+ ions was 0.1, the pH value was 1. When we diluted 10 times this solution, so the concentration now is 0.010, the pH value is 2. Let's dilute this solution 10 times. So now the concentration of H+ ions is 0.0010. We will find that the pH value is 3. Diluting it 10 times again will produce a solution where the concentration of H+ ions is 0.00010 and the pH value is 4. Examine the data presented in this table and try to figure out the pattern. So as the concentration of H+ ions decreases by a factor of 10, the pH value increases by 1 unit. So as the concentration of H+ decreases, we know that the acidity will decrease, and thus we expect the value of the pH to increase. And actually, the results show that the pH value will increase by 1 unit. And actually, this means that as the concentration of H+ increases by a factor of 10, the pH value will decrease by 1 unit. So don't confuse between the concentration of H+ ions and the pH value. As the concentration of H+ ions increase by a factor of 10, the pH value will decrease by 1 unit, and the opposite way around. As the concentration of H+ ions decrease by a factor of 10, the pH value will increase by 1 unit.